Hello, hello, and welcome to Fast Track to Fearless with me, Tracy Forsyth. And today we are talking networking. So a lot of what I talk about is career confidence and the tools that you need to be fearless about your career. And one of the things that people dread the most is networking. So much so that I've done a whole course called Network Like a Ninja, how to do that. But on my most recent leadership program at Women in Film and Television, one of the fabulous members of the cohort was my guest today, Sarah Mosses, the CEO of Together Films. And in talking to her, I realized I was in the presence of not only a networking ninja, but a networking pro. And she had tips that just blew our mind. So I just wanted to share her tips to the Fast Track to Fearless network, and just in the hope that it would really help all of you in terms of career confidence and fearless networking. So welcome, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your role. You're CEO of Together Films. Tell us a little bit about your role and why networking is so important for you.
Yeah. So Together Films, we're a marketing and impact company in the film space. So we both sell and market films on behalf of third-party clients like Magnolia, Universal, other clients at the moment. And the name Together really comes from the idea that releasing a film into the world requires you to work with many different stakeholders, many different people. We have to literally work together to make anything happen, whether you're releasing a film in cinemas, in festivals, online. And so my whole role is building partnerships and relationships with other people to make sure these films get out in the world in the most impactful and loud way. So my actual human role is make friends with as many people as possible in so many different sectors, from human rights, environmental issues, racial justice, film, to kind of put everybody together in one room. So my whole role is literally networking.
Amazing. So does this mean you are a natural networker, or does it take effort? Because I have to confess, even though I've done present a course on Network Like a Ninja, it's partly because, if truth be told, I would rather be at home with my dogs. But tell me about you. Are you naturally loving networking?
I feel like I come across as very confident in many spaces, but it's because I've put in systems to feel confident when I'm there. I'm naturally a very anxious human, and my good friends know that I can be very kind of introvert and inward. But I've put in together sort of systems and approaches when I'm out and about so that I can feel semi-confident when I'm going into a space, and that I have a system I can follow rather than just retreating back to my bedroom at the hotel during a festival and not seeing anybody. But it does take effort and planning so that I feel confident in that room.
Yeah, fantastic. I love a process. I love it. So, essentially what my approach is always to have a mission, a networking mission, break it down into a strategy, and then break it down in action steps. And I know from speaking to you that you do a similar thing with the volume turned up. So can you just give us an overview about how that manifests for you? How do you approach the whole thing of networking?
Yeah. So I'm a total geek, and so data and just having things ordered is really, really essential. So on some of the campaigns you work on, let's say, for example, we're working on an environmental campaign, and I need to try and identify and become friends with every single communications manager at leading environmental NGOs across the whole of America. That's a whole research task. It's finding all these different people. What are their interests? What's their biography? And then I'm a really visual human. I need a photo. Before I'm going to cold email someone, I need to be oh, this is Sandra. This is what she looks like. I'm going to write her a message. So in the sort of professional context, when it's kind of email driven, or whether it's social media kind of connections, the visual is really helpful for me in understanding the person's biography and what their intent is. And then
let me just when you say visuals, what does that actually look like? Have you got their faces stuck on a piece of paper? What is it?
Yeah, so we custom built a CRM system, which stands for Customer Relationship Management. And so the entirety of the Together Films universe is in this custom CRM. So if I'm at an event, and let's say, for example, we're working on an Academy Awards campaign, and I need to speak to certain Oscars voters to be hey, have you seen this film? You should love it. I can go in our system, I can pull up a list of all the Academy members in this particular location who are likely going to be at an event in New York, see all their faces, and then when I scan the room, I'm oh, great, there's that person. I need to say hi to them. So this kind of CRM that we've built, I would encourage everyone to have a personal human CRM that you to. You could build this in Airtable, you can use kind of different systems, But for me, having those photographs and having a little note about each person, like what was the last film that they did, what was the last kind of festival that they screened at. So when I go up to them, it's like, hey, I saw your recent film, I loved it. It's like you have that first line, so you're not just stumbling on the first second of the interaction, which is where everyone normally feels so awkward. It's like, I'm going in with the first line ready to go.
Yes. Okay. So pre-game, definitely research who's going, or have targets of who's going, and build on that by actually having a picture to the face so that you can identify them, and some key icebreakers like what they've done, what they've, a little bit about them. Because I always think really my first step is to connect and compliment. So connect. You break the ice by connecting with them, showing what the connection is, and complimenting them in some way. Because otherwise, why are you going to be talking to them? Okay, fantastic. And then in terms of setting an overall mission, what might that look like in that particular example? So environmental film, is it? Because I always think it's like, actually, if you begin with the end in mind, if you think on a yearly basis, if I had a brilliant year networking, then that would mean X new contacts and such being considered for these roles, or, there'd be some tangible benefits. So do you do the similar sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's kind of two ways that I approach it. One is my personal network as Sarah. So as Sarah, as a founder, like who do I need to be in rooms with? Who are my spaces? So I have a list, and anybody of my LinkedIn followers who are following this, who I watch this, I have a list of people in New York that every time I go to New York, I send them an email. I'm in town for the week. Would love to see you. Even if I can't see them, if they're busy, it's like I'm popping in on a quarterly basis saying, hey, I'm around, because they're a strategic human that I feel is really beneficial to be in the ecosystem. This might be a funder, this might be a distributor, might be a partner we want to work with. So it's sort of like regular communication and sort of regular interaction, which keeps me in sort of at the top of their minds, top of their inboxes. Then on a per film basis, we effectively have to create an ecosystem of humans around every film. So we might work on an issue that I've never worked on before. I don't have a person existing in that network. And so let's say we're launching a film nationally across America. I might try and find the leading 10 people in that space. It might be a communications manager, a CEO, a founder. And eventually I want them to start recommending me to other people. So once you get like enough kind of groundswell into a particular sector, effectively our jobs together is becoming friends with a sector that we don't operate in. That might be sort of a new space of human rights we haven't done before. We have to find who are the top 10 to 15 most engaged people and get to a point where they fall in love with the film, with the project, with the campaign, that they then say, oh my God, have you met this person? They're based in Miami. You should meet these guys. Have you met these guys in Atlanta? You should become friends with them. And that they start referring you on to others. So a thing that I'm really proud of it together is since kind of day one of the company launching a decade ago, the majority of it business and the majority of our clients have come from inbound referrals from other people we've worked with.
And so that just to, in layman's terms, that means you have really gone out there and spread the word and networked broad and wide so that enough people know of you and hear about you and then come cold call you effectively.
Exactly. And so many people will say, like, I heard about you through Charlie. I heard about you through Tom. I heard about you through Lizzie. Would love to see if I can work with you. Can I have a chat? And I think having inbound in your business is so important. The same thing then when it comes to a film. So we sort of start a campaign, we go out and become friends with everybody in an issue. We learn about their work, what's beneficial to them, how could this film benefit their organization. You don't sell on the first day, you're learning like what that person's interested in. And then it starts to flip. And then you start getting hundreds of different screening requests. Everyone's like, wow, I've heard this film can be so beneficial for my work because that organization's using it. Can I screen the film? And then it flips to inbound. So I think the way I think about networking was always like, what's the strategic outbound approaching? Like you have to just go and walk up to somebody in a room at some point because you feel like they should be in your network in some way, or that you might be able to help them in some way. It's like really about sort of what is the beneficial relationship there. And then eventually you start to then get the reverse, people coming up to you saying, oh, hey, I've heard about you. Can I kind of work with you in that way? So I always feel like when that shift goes from outbound to inbound, every campaign is when we've like landed it. And then in certain spaces, you kind of feel it when you're in a room. I can walk in and know one. And then other rooms I can walk in and be like, wow, there's people here that have heard about our work and want to talk to us. And that feels like so humbling to have kind of people come to me. But yeah, that inbound.
It's because you put the work in, and I think, you know, I always think that, you know, networking, it's like that advert about dogs. A dog is not for life. A dog is not for Christmas. It's for life. And the same thing about networking. Networking is not just when you want a job. It's like life. So listening to you, it's about building that ecosystem, building that web of connections, that it's not a transactional thing. You're not only having that conversation because you want something. It's getting curious about people, and it's growing something over. I mean, I've been in working for like 30 something years now, and the other day I got called by somebody that I worked on my very, very first ever job as a runner, which led to a lovely project. So it's really about growing this ecosystem. And actually, one of the things that the World Economic Forum say is one of the top skills that we'll need, or one of the things that we'll have by 2030, is network and influence, because jobs will change. And so it's really about understanding what's going on in the world. So everything that you're saying is just spot on. But, you know, you said, well, you just have to go in there and march up to somebody. Yeah. A lot of people find that very intimidating, working a room. So when you're kind of like walking into a room, how do you approach that? What's your game plan?
Yeah. So we'll be totally honest. There are sometimes I walk in and then I literally walk out again. Like there's still now when that happens. It's like 18 years into working. Like there's still those moments where I'll just be absolutely terrified and go out. There's totally times where I'll go and sit in the bathroom, the ladies' bathroom, for like 2 minutes and give myself a pep talk. Like I'm literally there, like, you're an adult human, you can do this, just go and speak to someone. Like that definitely still happens. And anyone who doesn't have that fear, you're a wonder human. But when I normally go into a room, if I have no context as to who will definitely be there, so if I'm going in completely solo, I haven't got like a wing woman with me, I haven't got one of my team or one of my friends at a festival, I'm just going in completely blind. I'll always assess like the layout. So I'm like, okay, well, there's the bar. So the easy thing is just to go straight to the bar and grab a drink. I'll grab a lemonade. I'll kind of come back. Then I'll kind of walk around. There might be a balcony. Go and have a look at the view. So I sort of want to know the layout of the room before I like go charging into someone, because I sort of want to know kind of how people are kind of figuring out. I'm completely scanning the room immediately. Are there any faces I recognize? And because I'm this visual human, some of them might be faces because I know them and they might be a friend and I can go immediately to them. And others might be, oh, that's a really important filmmaker that I really admire. I'd love to speak to them at some point this evening. I might not feel confident the first step to go to them first. I will like build up to it. So I might start with a group next door, and then when it feels more comfortable, I'll sort of like migrate into that conversation. But I'm kind of scanning around, and then I will do, and Trace talked about this in our kind of training, but this like figure of 8, like a circling around the room to kind of feel out who's there. Because what people who I feel kind of get nervous about this, they kind of come in, they stand still at the door, and they can't like get in. I immediately just keep my feet moving. I'm like, if I stand still, I'm going to get more nervous. So I walk around the room a little bit, see who's around. And eventually, if I don't recognize anyone, the bar is actually a great place to just start a chat with someone. So go grab a Coke or a water. Someone is literally stood next to you probably for 10 minutes waiting for the bar person. Have a chat with them. That's the first person. You might find they're really interesting. And it could be something totally random you didn't even know you needed to meet. And it turns out they're an amazing commissioner from a channel you wanted to chat to. So the bar is a good place just to say a first hello. And then it back into the room as it goes in. And then always look for like an opening in a group. Like if there's a slight gap between different people who are kind of in a conversation, eventually I might just wander up and be like, hey, so lovely to meet you. What are you all kind of chatting about? What's the kind of latest news, or something really basic? Say, I'm Sarah from Together, kind of would love to know what you do, and immediately say, what do you do and what are you interested in? That can definitely feel weird the first time, but in an event, once I've done that once, I can do it 20 times. It's like, it's just the first one feels a bit weird.
I mean, I always think we're not here to play people. You know, this is not a dress rehearsal. And there are plenty of things that, like I say, I'd rather be at home with my dog. So I always think I definitely do that figure of 8. And I recommend people when you keep moving, scan the room, etc., etc. But then also I like to set myself a target of an evening thinking, what would I feel happy with leaving? You know, and it's normally speaking to 3 or 4 people. And you know what I mean? It's like, so it kind of gives you that impetus to go, right, well, I can't leave until I've gone to speak to that amazing person that I've got. And then the other thing about muscling in, some people are very much like hogging, isn't it? So I think, again, we're not here to play people. You've just got to like hover. And that's the bit that people get really, you've got to hover and wait for your chance to move in. And if they really don't, you know, they're really LB, you just kind of got to lean over and say, oh, you know, hi, such and such, I'm so-and-so. I know you're really busy now, but I want to grab you later. You know, we're not, this is not a drill.
And also getting people's contact information as well. So there's one thing of like speaking to someone in a room and, as you say, 4 or 5 kind of true connections, but then have really simple ways. So like I have a QR code on my phone. So if somebody wants my information, they just scan the QR code, it goes in. You can do the like, tap thing now in Apple, which is interesting. But if they scan that QR code, it emails me to say that they've added my contact, which means then I can get home.
And you taught me that. This is why I thought this girl is a networking pro. Yeah. You know, so now you taught me that on LinkedIn, you can actually get a QR code for your LinkedIn. Yeah. And they just zap that and it takes them through to your thing. Because that's what I think. And these days we live in the digital era. So when you're having those conversations, even if you've just misheard that person's name, you go, hey, listen, how do we connect? What's your LinkedIn or whatever? So I think you get the details right there and then.
The cool kids will be like, what's your Instagram handle? I don't think I'm cool enough anymore for that to be my language change, but LinkedIn is the way I have a lot more reach on LinkedIn. It's important. Like you don't want to leave going like, oh God, I like didn't get their information. Like, how do I contact them again? And then stalk them for their email later. It's like, if you think there's a connection, even if it's been 2 minutes, like, can I grab your details? Would love to follow up with you about that. That sounds so fascinating, especially if they're like running and they're going to their next thing. You probably have 2 minutes to like establish and then get some kind of contact.
Absolutely. And in this day and age, you know, it's like you're talking about building your ecosystem, your network. It's like, you know, it's not just transactional. It's like, you know, people that you add to that. Yeah. So and the other thing, so you really taught me that about that QR code, which I think is brilliant. The other thing people worry about is exiting. They seem to find it like they say, oh, I get stuck with this person, I don't know how to exit. What are your top tips on that?
So Americans are great at this. And if you do a lot of business in America, you work out there's just really easy ways of getting out. So people are pretty clear in the US when you're in a networking situation. They'll be like, that was so great to meet you. I'm going to move on now to someone else, but loving this chat. They'll just like exit so rapidly. So I try and say to different people, depending on who the person is, like if someone is pitching me a film we might want to work with, that's too overwhelming for me to take all their information right there. I have a form on our website. So I'm like, love it. Would love to hear more. There's a form on our website. Please submit it. I'll have a look at that next week. I'm going to catch up with another filmmaker now and sort of move on that way. So also thinking about sort of, is the interaction fulfilling for you at this point? If someone else is not yet fulfilled, give them a way to kind of get in touch with you again. So that kind of find really helpful. And then if it's just really clear, like there's no benefit either way in the conversation, I think it's really fair to say, like, it's been lovely to meet you. I'm going to catch up with others. I'm going to get myself a drink. Getting myself a drink is the easiest one because it'll be really clear.
The worst one is when people say, oh, I've got to go to the toilet. I don't like that. I just think, you know, like you said, lovely to meet you. Let's mix and mingle. Or the other big tip that I think is great is if you act like the host. If you introduce people or whatever, can I introduce you to such and such or whatever? Okay, brilliant.
You speak to a lot of people and say, who in the room are you hoping to meet in case I know them? Because a lot of the time I will know more people in the room than maybe kind of others who are there. And I'm always happy to be like, well, let me come and say hi. And then you guys have a chat and then move on.
Yes, perfect. Act like the host. Okay, so after the networking, that bit of like a networking is done. What are your top tips for keeping the relationship going? You've mentioned that when you go to New York, you just tell everybody I'm in town. But what are there any other tips that you have for keeping the relationship going when there's not necessarily an immediate transaction that needs doing, that needs to happen?
Always having a simple follow-up that night or the next morning. And when I say that night, like on the tube home, on LinkedIn, so great to meet you tonight. Can't wait to see your film when it comes out. Following the person on Instagram, following the person on LinkedIn, like do some kind of interaction within like 5 hours of the event happening and everyone's on the tube on the way home or in a taxi, you've got time to quickly do something. If it's a more sort of business dealing, let's say I just got back from Cannes last week, we have templates of like most of the emails that we send as a business for all different types of things. So things like, it was so great to meet you to talk about your film. This is how you submit it through to our system. Would love to hear more about it at that point. Like that is templated, ready to go. So as soon as I've met that person, I can be sending that email within like 2 minutes. And some people find it odd, like in a networking space, like, you've just emailed me. I'm like, I know, like, because it's already gone out. But it's like, it's ready to go, it's there, and it means it's efficient.
Yes.
And then I don't think people sort of fully grasp the like follow-up motion. So if there was a follow-up action, like, I'm going to send you a report that's really helpful for your work, send the report that you mentioned. Like, it's so easy. The next day, find the link, send it over, a 2-second email, and share stuff that is useful for them, even if there's no physical transaction at that time.
Yes.
So thinking of you because this report came out, I think you'd be helpful for your work, take a look. And then I try now put kind of everybody into my kind of LinkedIn sort of following ecosystem, because that's where I'm most active, is where I share a lot. And so knowing that people are kind of following and listening, I can always call out like, oh, this amazing person I met 4 months ago was working on this thing, like, so amazing to see this, like, mention people and talk about things that are kind of broad to that kind of
sort of amplifying your network and all of that. And I know this is one of your absolute proof points, because your LinkedIn has remind me of what it started at recently and then what it's gone to.
So I used to get inundated with connection requests from people that I didn't necessarily know. And obviously LinkedIn is used as a referral mechanism. So lots of people contact me saying, oh, hey, can you introduce me to that person? They're in your network, you know them. And so it's really important everyone you accept is people that you actually know or have maybe worked with in some sense. And there's a few people that, yes, I will accept because they seem like amazing new friends could be there. But I just couldn't accept all the people who are requesting. So you can switch your LinkedIn from connection request to follow being the main action on your page. And I flipped that over, I think it was like 2 years ago. I started about 2,000 followers and I'm now close to 14,000 followers within the space of 2 years. And the potential of sort of LinkedIn, because it is a B2B space and it is a business network, I get lots of now inbound referrals via LinkedIn of people saying, oh, it was so amazing to see your article about this yesterday. I have a film in a similar realm. Can I have a look at it? And the organic reach of LinkedIn, when you're using strategic hashtags and sort of kind of positioning it in the right way, lots of people now come up to me at events and like, I've seen you on LinkedIn. They're not even following me. They're not my connection. It's just organic kind of expanded reach because maybe a friend of theirs shared it, or it just comes up in the algorithm. Like if they are interested in film, my things will come up. So on average now, at every film festival I go to, at least 5 to 10 people come up to me saying, I'm not your friend on LinkedIn, but like I've seen you multiple times over the last few months. So if you're doing anything that involves B2B relations, definitely really consider how you're showing up on LinkedIn and what way you're showing up, and what it is you're sharing, and is it useful and insightful. And big up your friends. Like when someone does something amazing, like it's great to say, oh my God, I'm so proud of my friend doing X, because that also might amplify their work to people that are tangentially following you, and it's good for them. So I
think you're so right, because it's almost like networking while you sleep, you know, having a LinkedIn, having things that go on LinkedIn, etc. That some things just come up again and again and again, don't they? And it's essentially doing it while you're not even on the computer or not on the internet. All right, like we're running out of time now, but I just wanted to this has been so insightful. I love it. If you had 3 main tips or takeaways from what we've talked about, what would they be for people?
Sharing is caring. I think that's like one thing. When you're in a networking space, share information rather than just pitching. So a lot of people default to a pitch kind of immediately, gets really awkward. You feel like you're being pitched to, it's really odd. But like share something informational, interesting, share that you know about their work, kind of really get into like a dialogue rather than an awkward pitch immediately is kind of useful in a networking room. Be prepared. Like when I started working in film, I was a volunteer at a film festival when I was 19 years old. I didn't know a single person who worked in film, not one. I don't come from a film family. My mum was a primary school teacher. Like you start with 1 connection and then you build it to 3 connections, then you build it to 5 connections. And so you need to kind of diligently plan what you're going to get out of an event. And if you just add 3 people per event you go to, my first year in London, I went to 2 events every week without fail. A free screening at BAFTA, a free screening at the Ritzy, a screening at Picture House. I put myself in spaces so every week I could gain 3 or 5 new friends who are now friends, but also business colleagues. And then follow up. Networking doesn't work unless you follow up. So knowing who's most priority. So yesterday I sat down with Natalie on my team, who works after our acquisitions and business development, and we did a can download. Who was every single human that I spoke to, every business card I got, every passing conversation about, I make notes on my phone religiously in every single event. When I get back from an event, it is like a script when I get home to. And we sat down, it took us 4 hours. What's that person getting? What's the follow-up with that person? Have we got a different thing there? And everything is noted and tracked in our system so we know for the future. But if you don't follow up, the whole exercise of going to that scary room for 3 hours, drinking cold wine, like, it's redundant if you don't follow up with the people. So you have to follow up.
I love it. Sharing is caring. Be prepared and methodical and follow up. Honestly, yeah. I mean, if people just did like 10% of what you're doing, Sarah, they would like really be networking ninjas, I think. Yeah. So
it's be kind. I think the other thing as well, like, cannot stress enough, be kind. If you feel like if you don't even realize you're hogging the space in a networking environment and someone else is trying to talk, just be self-aware that maybe they've been waiting for 7 minutes to talk to this person. Be kind, be aware of where you are in your surroundings, because you might be able to uplift someone who's next to you, or just allow them to come into the space. We don't have to be territorial. There's enough space for everyone, but be kind in those moments, and that will come back to you way more than anything else. When somebody is kind, I remember them way more than someone who was bullshit and someone who was rude.
Exactly. It's being growing the pie, isn't it? Rather than being worried about people taking your piece of pie. Yeah, really being inclusive and sort of acting like the host, really. For everybody. And as it goes back to that expression, I think it's Maya Angelou's, people remember, don't forget what you said, people remember what you did, but people never forget how you made them feel. Yeah. Okay, Sarah, this has been absolutely fantastic. So if people are not already following Sarah Moses on LinkedIn, I would definitely recommend that you do. She is a incredible woman, and I'm sure is on like an incredible journey. So definitely one to watch, one to follow already. But thank you for sharing your networking pro tips, and we really, really all appreciate it.
Happy to help.
All right, hold on.